Morning guys, Dave Canterbury with the Pathfinder School. Welcome back to another edition in our green woodworking series. And what we're going to do today is we're going to make a very simple tool. And we're going to make a chisel. Chisels can be quite expensive if you buy good ones. You can buy cheaper chisels, but with most woodworking tools, and I say most, unless you buy an antique tool that's in good condition or refurbish an antique tool, newer tools that are worth having for woodworking cost substantially more than just something you're going to buy off the shelf at Home Depot or Lowe's or Walmart. You're going to need to buy good tools that will last a long time. Now what you can do in lieu of that is you can make tools that will last a long time, and some tools are very, very easy to make. And one of those tools that's easy to make is a chisel. You don't really need a forge to make a chisel. All you really need is a grinder and some glue and a drill. What we're going to do is we're going to make a chisel out of this file, and the old files make great chisels because they're already very, very hard steel. And chisels are hard steel by nature, much harder than a knife as far as the Rockwell goes, because you want them to hold an edge for a very long time. So we're going to take this, and because it's a hard steel, it's brittle, we can snap this off. Then we're going to have something that we can keep it cool in, and we're going to grind it, cool it on a bench grinder to create that 30 to 35 degree bevel that we would have with a chisel. And we're going to use a hardwood maple handle that I just cut out real quick on my table saw, which I could have cut this out with just a handsaw very, very easily. And I could have drilled this with an auger. So this is not something that I have to have a bunch of power tools to create, other than some type of a grinder to make this edge with, and then some whetstones for final sharpening. Okay, the last component I have is a 3/8 washer. And this 3/8 washer, we're going to have to heat this up either with a forge or with a torch or in a campfire and get it red hot. And then we're going to press fit it around the tang of this file so it goes up to the top. What that's going to do is that's going to help evenly distribute the blows or the force from this file going backwards when we place it in the handle, so that we don't split the handle out as easily. It will give us, instead of a collar, it will give us a dead stop basically up against that wood. Okay, like I said, a file is pretty brittle because of the way they're made, so we just need to decide how long we want our chisel to be. Lock that thing in a vise really well, and then hit it with a hammer. And we'll snap it right off. And we'll save this for another project. So this is what we've got when we're finished, and we've got a little bit of a jagged edge here, but we can take care of that with the grinder. So the next step now is to grind this off. And what I'm going to use for my gauge is just this metal protractor. And I'm going to set it to about between a 30 and 35 degree angle, so that when I've ground this thing off and I put this in here, it lays on the angle, and then I'll know I have the correct angle that I want for my chisel. And then we can go into the final sharpening of this thing. Now we're just going to take it over to a bench grinder, and we're going to try to get that 30 degree angle ground on here, that bevel, and we're going to keep it cool as we go. Okay, so I've got a bucket of water sitting right here beside my grinder that I can go down to get this thing cooled down. Just put it on top of one of my quench buckets here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to square the end of this up. Pretty close right there. Now we're just going to start grinding our bevel in. One thing I'm going to do is on the back side of this, when I get my bevel in on the other side, I'm just going to take a light edge off of there to get rid of these file marks. The rest of them I don't care about. They can stay in there. Okay, so now I'm going to take my gauge and just lay it up on top of here, flat against the bottom. Drop the protractor down, and it's saying about 38 degrees, excuse me, about 38 degrees. So I'm not quite at the bevel I want. So now I'm going to come over here to the side of the wheel and bring that bevel down. Okay, it's hard to get a really perfectly smooth surface here on this grinder trying to hold it. So you're just going to get it close. And right now I'm sitting at about 33 degrees, and I'm happy with that. As long as I've got a good even bevel across the front of this thing. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come on the side of the wheel here and just shore that up. And make sure that that's polished up nice and clean. Making sure everything stays cool. I'm not using a lot of pressure here at all. Okay, so we've got this thing pretty well cleaned up now. We've got this side, we've got the file marks taken out right along the edge there. We've got a nice clean beveled surface here. We're square here with the front of our chisel. And our angle is right at about 32 or 33 degrees. That's all the work we need to do here. Now I forced that on there while it was hot, and then I cooled it down really fast, which will shrink it back down because metal expands when it gets hot. It shrinks when you cool it back down. So now it's going to be stuck right there, and all the force of this chisel on the handle is going to be taken up by this surface area here instead of by these pointed ridges here. Now the last thing I'm going to do before I seat this into the handle and glue it up is I'm going to countersink this hole just a little bit with this brace so that when it sits down in there, this is going to sit flat. Alright, so I've coated this thing now with Gorilla Glue, and all you want to do is just put a fine sheen of that glue on here because it expands so much. You'll be surprised how much it actually expands. Then I'm going to seat this in here just like this. Come in here with a block of wood across the grain. Pound that in. Move it up just a little bit, clamp it in that vise just a little bit tighter. Get one more good whack on it here. Everything looks good. Now we just really need to let it dry. And then we can kind of final sand everything and final sharpen it. Now you can see with this thing before we even finish it exactly what it's going to do. We haven't even put a final edge on this yet. This is straight off the grinder. Guys, I'm Dave Canterbury with Pathfinder School, and I appreciate you joining me today for this segment on how to make a chisel. And you can make a full set of these. All you have to do is find different size files depending on the size chisel that you want to make. Easy, you could just carry the blades. Multi-functionality, if you just ground off one side of this and kept it cool as you were grinding it, It would work as a flint striker as well. Leaving the file teeth on here, you still have the ability to use this as a file, plus you have the chisel, plus you would have a fire steel. So you can make this a very multifunctional tool as well. But for green woodworking, very simple to make yourself a nice set of chisels. I appreciate your views, I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, and for our business, for all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends. I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.